Good morning, baseball. It is your boy NMR Sports here, coming back at you with my lovely co-host, Franklin P. Helmstetter. How the heck are you, buddy? Did you catch any games last night?
Yeah, man. Doing well, hanging in there. Yeah, I did. I watched a particular game that we'll probably talk about. It was a little disappointing, but all things considered, after that, I've been doing good, hanging in. How are you, man?
I am in a full-on existential crisis, just full-on depressive episode, but I'm putting on a really good fake persona, getting in my little podcast personality here. If you are the first time watching this show, this is a Good Morning Baseball show where we talk about all the events that happened around the game of baseball last night. We post these every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, except for Sundays. We don't it's the Lord's Day. We got to take our time to rest. We can't work on the Sabbath. Come on, man.
Amen.
Old Testament times here. Anyways, if you do enjoy this content, be sure to leave a like on the video, help it reach more baseball fans, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily MLB content as well. And as you may notice on the top of the screen here, which Frank can't see, but I can see right here, we have our first sponsors, Thrive Fantasy, a daily sports player prop app. Use code NMR or click the link in the description to sign up, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. And if you deposit at least $10, you will get 2 free $20 contest entries. And if you deposit $100, they'll double that, give you 4 free $20 contest entries. That is a tongue twister, but thanks so much for Thrive Fantasy for sponsoring this video. And without further ado, let's start talking about the games that happened last night. Take it away, Frank. What do we got?
All right. So first up, we got the Twins and Guardians here. They played actually doubleheader yesterday. So first up, we're going to go with the first game here. Twins got a 13-hit game, beat the Guardians 6-0. But in the second game, the Guardians edged them 3-2. So, hanging on there. It would have been, a lot sadder if the Guardians were swept. So they're, holding their own a little bit, but definitely falling a little bit behind in that Central Division. Next up, we got the Nationals-Pirates game. Nationals bested the Pirates 3-1 in this one. We got the Braves and the Phillies matchup. Braves ended up taking this one 5-3. Another close game in New York. We got the Yankees and A's. Frankie Montas pitched a relatively good game, but he ended up giving up 2 runs later in the game, and the Yankees bested them 2-1. We got the Red Sox Blue Jays game, where the Blue Jays took this one in the late innings 6-5, another close one there. The Astros absolutely decimated the New York Mets, who have been playing really well. Again, man, this Astros team is scary. They beat the Mets 9-1. We got the Brewers and Rays here. The Brewers beat the Rays 5-3, another close game there. And yeah, why don't you finish them off for me here?
I got you, man. Just gonna make a joke there, but anyways, the Marlins and Cardinals squaring off in St. Louis. 5-3 victory for the St. Louis Cardinals there. The Marlins continue to lose these close games because they can't put a whole lot of runs up. Dakota Hudson gets his 6th win of the season with a sub-4 ERA as well, as Ryan Helsley gets his 6th save of the year. Another trade piece, we already talked about Frankie Montas. Luis Castillo taking the bump in Wrigley Field, the friendly confines. Gets his 3rd win of the season, still under 500 in the win-loss column, but Reds squeak out a 5-3 victory there. Hunter Strickland gets the save in that one. Rangers decimated the Kansas City Royals. John Gray on the mound gets the victory. 4-3 win for the Texas Rangers. 8-3 win for the Texas Rangers. John Gray moves his record to 4-3. Dodgers got destroyed by the Rockies, 7-4. Kershaw with his 2nd loss of the season. Kyle Freeland gets the victory in that one. White Sox beat the Angels 11-4. Padres lost to the Diamondbacks in Arizona, 7-6. Walk-off victory for the Arizona Diamondbacks there. Taylor Rogers getting the loss. He did move his ERA down to 2.84 though. Mark Melancon getting the victory in that one. Taylor Rogers picking up the loss. The Giants barely squeak out a victory against the Detroit Tigers, 4-3 in that one. Rodon gets his 7th win of the season. And then the Orioles lose a heartbreaker to the Seattle Mariners, 2-0. Pitchers duel all the way in this one between Robbie Ray And I can't remember this dude's name. Dean Kremer, something like that. Whoever he is, pretty good outing for him. 7 innings pitched, but does end up getting the loss despite didn't get the loss, but pitches 7 innings of no earned run baseball, but ends up on the losing side of it. Luckily didn't pick up the loss, but also got a no decision. So that was our daily MLB slate for June 28th. Few cool storylines going around the league today. Let's start off hot with one of probably the worst pitcher in all of baseball of the last 2 or 3 seasons, Patrick Corbin. Now, I know it was against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I will preface this by saying this was against the Pittsburgh Pirates, but so take it with a grain of salt, but 12 strikeouts on the day. 12 strikeouts for Patrick Corbin. Do you know when the last time Patrick Corbin struck out double-digit batters was? Do you? September 17th, 2019. 60 starts ago. It has been 60 starts since Patrick Corbin, who is considered by most to be a strikeout pitcher, 60 starts since he's had a double-digit strikeout game. And this is a guy who plays a lot of teams that strike out a lot. The Braves strike out a lot. They play them all the time. The Marlins have had some bad teams that struck out a lot. It's not like he's facing great opponents every single time he's out there. 60 starts it's taken him to get back to that double-digit strikeout threshold, but he would end up full stat line for him. 8 innings pitched, 5 hits allowed, 1 earned run on a solo home run by Diego Castillo. 2 walks and 12 strikeouts. And guess what he lowered his ERA to? 6.06 on the season. So,
Solid.
With all that information I just gave you, is Patrick Corbin back?
Is he back? Oh, I mean, listen, again, you said it at the beginning. It's the Pirates. I mean, as much as I think they have a bright future, they're still, not offensive phenoms there. So I think it's a great performance. Don't get me wrong. Probably boosted his confidence greatly to have that happen, where he's striking out, batters like he was, I think, expected to when he was drafted. When he was, pitching extremely well. But I'm not really ready to say that he's back yet. I think this is a good start and a good step in the right direction. And again, maybe confidence-wise, this helps him. Who knows? But maybe we could pay attention to him. Check back in at his next start, see how he's doing. What are you thinking here?
Well, he's already the owner of what I consider to be the worst contract in baseball. You can argue Anthony Rendon and Steven Strasburg, but they're not actively hurting their teams. They're just not performing. They're just not playing at all. And I would argue that not playing at all is more valuable than Patrick Corbin starting for this baseball team. So hopefully, I don't hate the guy. He was drafted by the Angels. He's an Angels legend, although he never played for the team. 2019 World Series, legend, even though he didn't have that great of stats. I would like to see him back, but I agree with you. I think he's still throwing batting practice out there, still throwing meatballs. Once upon a time, one of the better pitchers in the league. He has finished top 15 in the Cy Young voting multiple times in his career, but that is not the same Patrick Corbin we've been seeing lately. I will say he killed my stat line for my player props that I submitted with Thrive Fantasy yesterday. All I needed was Brian Hayes to score a run, and Patrick Corbin just stranded him on base left and right all day long. So Patrick Corbin, next time please let Brian Hayes score, but hey, good outing. Round of applause for one good start out of 60. Congratulations. Speaking of bad things, the Los Angeles Angels played a game yesterday, or if you want to call it that. Let's talk about the good. Shohei Ohtani home run, woo! Mike Trout home run, woo! Back-to-back. Andrew Velasquez home run. Andrew Barrels Velasquez, my favorite player. Andrew Barrels Velasquez. And that's it. Let's just talk about the bad now. The Angels, Archie Bradley gets announced. Broken elbow. How did he break it? Falling out of the dugout, trying to join the benches clearing brawl on Sunday against the Mariners, which we talked about at length in our yesterday episode, if you want to go check that out, if you want to know our thoughts on it. So Archie Bradley injured list for at least 4 weeks, probably a little over a month, for breaking his elbow falling out of the dugout. Brandon Marsh left the game early with a knee injury. Joe Adell has some knee problems in the minor leagues as well. He had his knee drained the other day. I don't know what that means, but it sounds scary. The bullpen absolutely imploded. They had a 3-0 lead going into the 5th inning, and they ended up giving up 11 runs to one of their own. Shout out to Shohei Ohtani for almost hitting his 2nd home run of the game. Shohei with 3 extra base hits. Mike Trout with a home run as well. My question is this the most embarrassing franchise in all of baseball? Like, it's not the worst, but I would argue it's the most embarrassing. I'm absolutely embarrassed to be an Angels fan.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I definitely think that at this current time, specifically, just given because they are in the limelight right now, whether they deserve it or not, they don't, because they're not playing good baseball. But given the Mariners confrontation a few days ago and everything, like, they are being, I think, focused on a little more. And also they have 2 of the best players in the league, if not the best. So really have a lot of spotlight here. The first thing I'll say is, like, really briefly, I think it's time, we send people to the moon. I think it's time we make, the dugout doors maybe, like, open so that people don't jump over the railing, because, like, I always see people during fights, they're jumping over the railing. I'm like, I think
Abolish
we can make
railings.
a door there.
We're an anti-railings podcast.
Yes, abolish railings. But that is how Archie hurt himself, so that's definitely unfortunate. But yes, all of the accidental injuries aside, all injuries aside too, I just think, it's super embarrassing, man. You see Mike Trout out there in center field last night. He's alerting the management that one of our guys, Elvis Peguero, in the bullpen is tipping pitches. So that was a big factor as to why the White Sox were able to tee off so much. But for him to be the one to notice standing out in center field, our pitching coach is just sitting there. He doesn't even notice this obvious tip there. All of these things, I mean, we could talk about this forever. And I have a lot to say, but
I'm gonna record a very long video after this.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But in summation, all of the things anyone who is an Angels fan and pays attention to them could consider, I think anyone who takes all of that information and looks at these other franchises and doesn't say that, like, given the amount of talent that we could have and that we do have, and the little things that we could do to make us slightly better and just not as embarrassing, I think given all of that, yes, we are the most embarrassing franchise currently, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, I don't. It's nights like these where I legitimately do not. I tweet a lot. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I tweet a lot. I love going on Twitter. I love liking people's posts. I love responding to people. I am embarrassed to open Twitter right now. I can't. I don't want to show my face. I can't. My comments section is full of Mariners fans hating and other fans hating. And, every time I post an Angels rant, I get a lot of sympathetic Angels fans that are like, yeah, man, it sucks. We suck, blah, blah, blah. But then I get as many, like, Yankees fans in there like, oh, trade us Shohei Ohtani, sell, blah, 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 do all this stuff. And I'm just like, or they'll try to make fun of the Angels. And I'm like, do you think I'm going to defend us? What do you think I'm going to say? What is there left to defend this franchise, man? It is ridiculous. On a side note that did happen in this game, Mike Trout got thrown at again. Ball right above his head. 97-mile-per-hour fastball by Joe Kelly. Trout kind of laughed it off. Joe Kelly gave him a little nod like, hey, my bad. I didn't give you this question before we started on air today, but is it time to do something about the baseballs? There's clearly something wrong with the baseballs right now. We saw a ball slip out of Lorenzen's hand the other day and hit Justin Upton. The whole Trout fiasco, this recent thing last night. Joe Kelly's always been a wild pitcher, but,
What I think it's time for is for MLB to allow baseball to be played, like, more than one season without drastically changing so many elements of the game. Regardless of if it's baseballs, regardless of if it's the rules that we're playing under. I realize some of those rules were because of players, association asking for those rules to be reverted or kept. But, I think we need to keep things consistent for more than, I don't know, a year or a season. But yeah, in terms of the balls, yeah, I've heard, multiple pitchers complain. It's obvious that a lot of them do not have the control that they used to. And it's dangerous. I mean, you got a guy like Joe Kelly who can whip the ball about 102 miles an hour, can potentially, shatter someone's jaw if they're not wearing the flap that Mike Trout dons. Because of the whole like Stanton incident years ago where that kind of sparked that movement of players wearing that, which is a good thing. But regardless, like people are going to get hurt, man. Like, and I think this whole like experimental, quite frankly, BS that happens is just not really, is not worth, hurting these players. I think it's time to address it 100%.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge Trevor Bauer fan, but back in the day when he was considered a, not a bad person, he did make a video talking about how he was talking with Rob Manfred about, maybe getting a ball that's like a little bit, scuffed up so it has a little more grip on it, or like a different texture on the outside, or rubbing it up with a different substance or something that's approved. So there's definitely options. There's things that can be done. I just feel like MLB is not trying hard enough. I don't know how many players have to get nearly hit in the head or actually hit in the head or the jaw or the elbow or whatever, or the thumb in Bryce Harper's case, before they do something about the baseball. So it's definitely something that needs to be addressed, and I hope they address it at some point. But I hear you about changing the rules every 5 minutes, but that sucks too.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on to the AL Central, the Minnesota Twins blew another lead to the Cleveland Guardians last night, or yesterday, I should say, in the first game of their doubleheader. This is the third time they have blown a lead to the Cleveland Guardians in the last week. So overall, I feel like the Twins have been playing very good baseball, but their bullpen is still massively below par at the moment. So do you think if the Cubs go out and get a couple of bullpen arms, there's quite a few available. We've talked about Daniel Barr, David Robertson, David Bednar with the Pittsburgh Pirates. There's a lot of good bullpen help available. If the Twins go out and get a couple of these guys, do you think they could put themselves in the conversation as a legitimate contender in the American League?
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about how the AL Central is realistically kind of a weaker division. I mean, you got the Astros at the top of the West, you got the Yankees at the top of the East, and those teams are just phenomenal. Top of your power rankings. If you haven't watched that video, please watch it. It's a great power rankings video. Anyways, sorry for the plug. Yeah, man, I think given the fact but that is also a good thing in a sense, because like the Twins could really widen that margin. And they're already at the top of the division, but if they have a couple bullpen arms to not blow these games, and they can keep piling on more games where they're not blowing these leads, that can really make a difference considering how, the Guardians are really not that far behind them. So if they can widen that margin, have a more solid bullpen, close out games a little more effectively, I think absolutely that could, put them in at least the conversation of contention. Whether or not they last in the playoffs, if they make it, is an entire different story. But yeah, I definitely think, solidifying a few arms of the bullpen would help them for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, at this point, it's pretty clear that they're going to be buyers at the trade deadline, barring a major collapse by them or the Guardians. I think both of them will be buyers at the deadline, so we'll see what happens. It's crazy because pretty much every team could use some bullpen help right now, and there are a solid amount of arms, like I said, available. But I feel like usually in these kind of situations, one team goes out and gets like 3 or 4 of them, and everyone else is kind of left in the dust. We saw it happen the couple off seasons ago in San Diego when they got all those starting pitchers at once. So we'll see what happens. I would like to see the Twins go out and try to make a move like that. So we'll have to see. I think their offense and their rotation looks very, very good. I'm pleasantly surprised with the rotation too. I was one of the haters on the rotation coming into the season, and I'm big enough to admit when I'm wrong, man. I was wrong. This rotation is legit. So Speaking of other trade candidates, great segue, Nolan. Couple of trade candidates squaring off, not squaring off, but pitching in their respective games. Frankie Montas and Diego Castillo, the two biggest names on the trade market in the pitching department. Frankie Montas, 2 runs against the Yankees, gets his 8th loss of the season despite having an ERA of 3.2. While Castillo picked up his 3rd win of the year, but is still below 500, 3-4 win-loss record, and posting a 3.32 ERA. Now, it's pretty clear at this point both of these arms are going to get moved at some point. I hope so. The Reds are pretty poverty. I could see them not making a move, a la the Rockies last year with Trevor Story. But, it's pretty clear both these guys are going to get moved. Where do you want to see them land, and where do you think they're going to land?
Well, it's tough because if you had asked me a couple weeks ago, I might have said I want Castillo at least to land in Anaheim. We've been talking about this for forever, but at this point, I don't think Castillo deserves that team, or he doesn't deserve the pain and suffering that comes across with that team.
Angels don't deserve him.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I think, but realistically, I think both of these guys. Well, let me say where I think I want Montas in San Francisco would be great, because I was researching San Francisco starting pitching. They have I think the 19th highest ERA in baseball since like May 15th. They have, and a lot of that is contributed to by Webb and who's their other good starter? You know what I'm talking about? Rodon, yes. Yeah. So yeah, aside from those 2 arms, like it would be low. It would be even a higher, average there. And I think, like, given how congested their playoff race is going to be in the West, or if they're pushing for the West or whatever it is, I think they could really solidify their rotation by having another solid arm in there. So that's where I think he could fit. I don't think that's going to happen. I think realistically, my honest opinion is I think they're both going to go to LA. I think the Dodgers are willing and able to swing that. So I don't know, man. I see them both.
I wish you were wrong.
I know, but I'm telling you, I see them both in a Dodgers uniform. At the very least, one of them, probably Castillo. But
I'd say Castillo, yeah.
Yeah. What are you thinking here?
I will say the Giants a great pick. I love that fit for either one of these guys. Personally, I think the Blue Jays need to get one of these guys. They have not gotten what they need to out of Jose Barrios with the amount of money they're paying them. Ryu's on the injured list. I know, I have to acknowledge the Barrios shot because it's it's a staple of the YouTube channel.
Yep.
Kikuchi's good, but he's no Frankie Montas. He's no Diego Castillo. So if you have a big 3 in the playoffs of, Kevin Gausman, Alek Manoah, and Frankie Montas, or Diego Castillo, that is huge. That is a huge improvement. I do also think they need to get some bullpen help, but I think if they were able to get 1 or 2 good relievers as well as a Frankie Montas or Diego Castillo, they would be the team that we all thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season. And honestly, if they did those 2 moves, they would probably move. I don't know if they'd move into my favorite team in the American League, but at least a solid number 2 fighting with the Astros, behind the Yankees. So
yeah.
I would love to see him in a Blue Jays uniform. I do agree they're probably going to end up, one of them's going to end up on the Dodgers. I would say actually Montas on the Dodgers and Castillo on the Yankees. Castillo's been tied to the Yankees for a very long time. There was a rumor, I believe in 2020. It was right around the time I started my YouTube channel. It was one of my first videos that did well. Luis Castillo was rumored to the Yankees, and it was supposed to be a blockbuster, like Gleyber Torres heading over when he was still considered one of the best shortstops in the game. Some of their top prospects, Clint Frazier before he was a bust. A bunch of guys heading over to Cincinnati. but they kind of vetoed that deal. They wanted to hang on to him. So I could see Diego Castillo finally becoming a Yankee, and then Frankie Montas I think would fit great into that Dodgers rotation, make it a lot deeper. All right, well, one more thing. We just talked a little bit about the Toronto Blue Jays. One big topic around the league when teams have been going to Toronto is vaccinated, unvaccinated players. We've seen it have a little bit of an impact recently. You know, the Twins went out. They were missing a couple of their big outfielders, a couple of their big bats there. I believe the Rays were missing some of their pitchers as well. Probably the ones that didn't want to wear the rainbow hats. Well, the Red Sox possibly had the most blatant case of really missing one of those unvaccinated players the other day. Last night, in the bottom of the 9th inning, they were without their closer, Tanner Huck, because he wasn't able to travel with the team to Toronto. So they had to bring in Hansel Robles, and you and I both know, Frank, as Angels fans, Hansel Robles, not the guy you want to call on to shut the door in the 9th typically. They end up blowing the game. Yeah, exactly. They end up blowing the game to the Blue Jays, allowing 2 runs in the 9th after actually having the lead entering the 9th inning. So I don't know, man. I know it's a controversial topic. I don't want to get political with it, but do Red Sox fans, do they have a right to be pissed at this? Like this, they would have won that game if Tanner Huck was there. I can almost guarantee it if Tanner Huck had been with the team. And it seems like, I don't know, does this make him a bad team player, or what are your thoughts?
I mean, I have my opinions. I'm going to reserve them. I think looking at this from just like a straight up perspective, Canada's rules on vaccinations and all of that stuff have been more aggressive than the United States. That's just a fact. So anytime we fly into Canadian territory, it is within their rights to demand what they demand. And I think, given that there's a baseball team in that area, I think that's just something that players either need to, deal with and take the proper measures in order to be able to play, or be okay with not playing there. And that's something that Tanner chose independently, and that's fine. He's totally entitled to do that, and that's his stance. But I think from a fan's perspective, I would definitely be a little irritated. I think there's probably there's probably fans who are irritated at Tanner for not doing the right protocol, or the right protocol, and there's probably fans who are also upset at just the fact that rule exists. So either way, it's upsetting, right? Like, for sure. But yeah, I agree. I think this is an instance in which that would not have happened with a solid closing arm there. Yeah. So it's just frustrating, but it is what it is. You can't really control these well, it's interesting foreign territories.
Too, you think about the Blue Jays, this is the most blatant example of a win that I feel like was, directly in correlation with a player being unvaccinated. So I feel like this is the first time I've actually noticed the Blue Jays having a little bit of an advantage due to the vaccine mandate. But yeah, at the end of the day, man, it's their country's rules. You can't really do much to change anything about it. It's not like a major league. If it was a Major League Baseball policy, you could have a problem with it. But at the end of the day, man, if whatever, I'm sure the fan base in Boston's very split on it. I'm not excited to see which Angels don't get to travel with the team. So, I will try to
that'll
remain.
Be interesting. But it's just like with Canada's. It's frustrating, and it's just like with Canada's. It just kind of it is what it is in terms of the All-Star voting as well. We've seen how just considering Canada, whatever Canada says goes, bro. That's what's up. Okay,
I guess so, man.
You gotta just deal with Canada.
It's the KLB.
Yeah, exactly, man.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us today on this episode of Good Morning Baseball. Oh, I just realized I totally didn't change the date on here. So, it's June 29th. My bad. But thanks for joining me, Frank. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like on this video to help it reach more baseball fans. And don't forget to subscribe and turn post notifications on so you get that notification bright and early that Good Morning Baseball has been posted. You can have a nice little watch while you sip your morning cup of coffee. before you go to work or school or before you hop on Xbox since it's summer vacation. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to use code NMR at Thrive Fantasy to sign up, or click the link in the bio to get that deposit match. And I will see you guys all in the next one. Thanks again so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.